Namaste, my name is Sanat Kumar. Welcome back to the Manana Podcast. Manana is a Sanskrit word that means reflection or contemplation. In this podcast, I'll be sharing my deep, insightful reflections for you to contemplate and hence live a life of fulfillment. I hope you find great value in today's episode. Writing is like listening yourself talk. You could say it is one of the best self-talk listening practice. And hence, you will be discovering yourself as you write. And it magically works the opposite way. It not only unravels what you truly are, but it can also transform you. In simple words, you are what you write. You write through what you are, and you can become through what you write about. Writing may change your life. I've tried to put that across through my first blog and the episode here and blog 42, where I give you the reasons to write every day, and even in my book Flower of Fulfillment. However, I felt there is still more I could do in embracing what writing could do, and specifically in this episode, which is taken from blog 77, I thought of sharing a few practical points that might help you become better at writing. First of all, when I say writing, it is writing your own words. It is something out of your own reflection. And it's not something you write just because you have to, or I'm not referring to content writing or copywriting here. At first, I thought there is a split here. Writing for yourself, writing for people. But as I moved through my writing journey, I realized that there isn't any split here. If you want to get better at writing, either for the public or just for yourself, it's all about the simple practices that you do consistently. So how can we get better at this skill of writing? 1. Observe. It's what artists do, right? To be able to see what no one else could. But do they actually do that? Let's come to that later. 2. Capture. Note taking changed my life. As I told, I've already mentioned that note taking has been transformative to my life in the episode 1, that is blog 1. Moving on to the next point. 3. Think. Like I mentioned in the episode, the biggest problem to humanity, when I say think, reflection, self-interrogation, wondering, pondering, visualizing, whatever you may call it, I mean all of it. 4th, repeatedly repeat steps 1 to 3. How can artists see what no one else could? Simply observing does not create that magic. The magic is in the loop. When you observe something with what you've previously captured and thought of, and interpret what you observed based on that, that creates magic. There is a risk here, of course. You may tend to lose sight of the truth. For that, you need to have to be great at discrimination, viveka, the power of objective thinking. That is already covered in my blog. It's yet to come here on the podcast. It will soon come. But that's an entirely different topic. I'll not touch that on this episode. So even though I've mentioned observe as the first point, I think it's not in that particular order. Because even to utilize what you observe, you need to have captured. You need to have thought, right? You need to think. Don't you think? Anyway, the order doesn't matter. Because probably there isn't one. Point 5. Info versus reflection. Write what you've realized versus what you just read. Try not to write just because you've thought of something. Write what insights those thoughts led you to. Write around that inference. Without it, why write? Especially if you're writing for a public blog, please remember that if someone has to trade their time for your writing, make sure it's worth it. And understand that writing is not just a way to transfer information. It's a way to move someone. It must either bring awareness or inspire people. If not any of that, at least it should nudge people to think in certain way, right? I think this point is more relevant now as the improvement of AI is so much evident, right? Artificial intelligence can search the entire web and give you information, but it cannot provide insights, experiences, what only human can, right? Only you can experience what you experience. So only you can bring that particular insight. Only you can say it that way. So remember to distinguish info versus reflection when you are writing. Just be mindful about this point. Okay, moving on. Here are a few key practices that can help you observe, capture, and think. I'm not saying you should do all of these practices. You can try each of them and see what works for you and stick to one or two from this. Of course, if you want, you can do all of these. First one, log. Summarizing or even detailed writing about your day at the end of it. Or you may even choose to write in the next morning or do it once a week. This will help you see your life from a wider perspective, recognize patterns in your behaviors, and keep track of your life. It helps you both capture moments of your life and also observe patterns and can even lead to deep thinking sessions. I've done this, but this has not stuck with me. The next one is journal. This is the self talk that reveals yourself. It may be like a brain dump when you are overwhelmed and feeling low. When you write why you are feeling how you are feeling, you will find answers. You will meet you, right? So that is the kind of practice we are talking here, journaling. Next one is note taking. Note taking is a practice used to collect everything from within and from external sources. Mainly use note taking to capture those insights that emerged from within. At least that's how I used it. It is either my blog or my book or this podcast has come into existence only because I started note taking, just because I captured my insights. That's all. Then, of course, you can use it to capture resources from external sources. So, you might have watched a masterclass or something like that, and you might have felt something is very insightful for you in that particular source. So, you could capture it there. And to capture info that you don't want to clog up your brain's memory, I move such notes to archive category. Next one, blog. You can either have a personal blog or a public blog, or both even, like I do. Blogs are like writing prompts, but blogs make you more committed. At the least, writing blogs will help you keep the practice going. Writing blogs helps especially when you are committed to writing consistently, as it naturally forces your brain to come up with ideas to write about consistently. And when you choose to go public, it makes you socially accountable and provides valuable feedback. If you start writing publicly, what happens? It is a way to express your opinions, right? It just builds your own world actually. So at least to the person who might visit your blog, there is a lot to connect with, right? And even when you speak somewhere else, you can refer your blogs, and people might find it interesting that you write blog. Okay, but of course these are all secondary benefits. We are only focusing writing itself, improving the writing skill itself as the main objective here. Next, big project. It might be a novel, non-fiction, or a storyline for a movie. This is something very essential if you ask me. You may know how much I embrace people's need to learn to use what they've learned and be what they were trained for, right? Engineers should build, artists must make art, and scientists must innovate. Similarly, writers must write. All the practices mentioned above should push you into this. If that happens, that means you're on the right track. That means you are practicing the art of writing well. Very well indeed if you are able to complete such big projects. I believe this episode was at the least a provoking thorn for you to start writing, note taking, journaling, etc. I hope you received excellent value in today's episode. To know more, head over to sanatkumarnahibi.com, and if you haven't already, check out my book The Flower of Fulfillment. Thank you for listening, and I wish you have a great day.